Hi everyone, today I will be sharing insights from my interview with Christina, who is a global talent, inclusion, and diversity leader at Mars Veterinary Health. What I discovered through our conversation offers valuable lessons about effective adult learning in corporate settings. Before I dive in, I want to tell you a little bit about why I chose Christina for this interview. In her role, she's not focused just on training people. She shapes the future leadership of a global organization. She works in what Mars calls People in Operations, or P&O, which is essentially their human resource department. But her work goes far beyond traditional HR. She's responsible for talent pipeline development, succession planning, and ensuring that Mars has the right people ready to step into critical leadership roles across their global operations. What makes her perspective particularly valuable is the scale and complexity of her work. She's designing learning experiences for people across time zones, cultures, languages, and organizational levels. From individual contributors to presidents of major business units like Banfield, VCA, and Blue Pearl. So today I will walk you through what I learned about how she approaches adult learning, the challenges she faces, and how her practices connect to theories we've been studying. So I'm going to start by giving you some context about Christina's role and responsibilities. Christina's primary focus is on talent assessment and development. As she explained to me, her job is to look at the talent pipeline and understand each person's readiness to move up across different organizations, not just within Mars Veterinary Health, but potentially across Mars Pet Care or even Mars Incorporated as a whole. So think about that scope for a moment. Mars isn't just candy bars and M&Ms, which is what most of us think about. They have massive divisions including snacking, candy, and veterinary health. Christina's team looks at talent across all organizational levels and asks critical questions. For example, she used me as the stand-in. Does Ashley have the capabilities to fill the senior role? If not, what specific development does she need? What's her timeline for readiness? This is succession planning at a very sophisticated level. It requires not just understanding what people know, but anticipating what the organization will need in the future and creating development pathways to bridge that gap. What struck me the most during our conversation was Christina's genuine passion for this work. When I asked her what she likes most about her position, she said, and I quote, "I've never worked at an organization where they invest so much in development. They want to invest in people and help them succeed in roles." So that investment philosophy shapes everything she does in her adult learning approaches. So now let's talk about Christina's foundational philosophy for adult learning. Throughout our entire interview, one phrase kept coming up: meeting people where they're at. But what does that actually mean in practice? For Christina, it starts with the assessment. Before she designs any training or learning experiences, she conducts a baseline assessment to understand what learners already know about a topic. As she told me, it's kind of understanding first, doing an assessment of what they do know or not know about a topic that you're thinking about, or what you want them to learn. So it's really kind of getting that baseline. So this connects directly to what Knowles and colleagues discuss in their work on andragogy. Adult learners come with rich, diverse experiences and existing knowledge. Effective adult education doesn't ignore that foundation, but it builds on it. Christina gave me some practical examples. So for example, she's doing a presentation. She might start with a couple of questions at the beginning just to get a pulse on whether certain words or processes are familiar to the audience. This allows her to tailor her training in real time based on where people actually are, not where she assumes they should be. When she understands the baseline, she differentiates her approach. She groups people by skill level. For instance, if someone is a novice in an area, doesn't have that basic understanding, she'll group them with similar learners. Now, it's not just about skill level. She also considers cultural preferences, time zones, and other regional differences. Now, this is where her work really demonstrates the complexity of adult learning in this global context. So when we're looking at cultural responsiveness and global learning, one of the most fascinating aspects of our conversation was her discussion about these cultural differences in learning environments. This is where theory meets real-world complexity. So I'm going to share a specific example she gave me. In the Asian Pacific region, there's a cultural preference not to voice opinions openly on calls, especially in hierarchical settings. If a supervisor, boss is in the meeting, team members are even less likely to speak up. This isn't about engagement or interest, it's just about those cultural norms and ways of working. So how does Christina address this? Well, she uses pre-work surveys, written feedback. All of these give learners a voice while respecting their cultural preferences. She's also mindful about who's in virtual rooms and how that actually might affect participation. So this connects to what Swanson and Holton discuss about globalization in human resource development. Building strong global practices requires supporting diverse cultures, not trying to force everyone into the same mold. But cultural responsiveness goes even deeper. Christina talked about translation and language accessibility. Not everyone speaks or reads English, so what are they doing to ensure training is available? They ask questions about, can the materials be translated? Are subtitles available? Do they need live translators for certain sessions? Now, these aren't just minor details. They're really fundamental questions of inclusion and access. If someone can't access the learning because of language barriers or technical limitations, then all that great instructional design in the world does not matter. Christina did share a challenge they're facing right now. Mars Veterinary Health operates on different systems other than what she's used to, which sometimes means people can't join meetings they're supposed to actually attend. So as she said, that does not feel inclusive at all. It's like, oh, I'm supposed to be part of this organization, but I can't even join the meeting. So when we discussed this, she addressed these technical barriers as part of her role, ensuring that when they send out training, communication, people can actually utilize the links and participate. It's a reminder that adult learning isn't just about content design, it's also about removing those barriers to access. So to talk about engagement, which was a major theme throughout our interview, Christina is very intentional about how she keeps adult learners engaged, especially in virtual environments. First and foremost, she believes in making the why very crystal clear. She frames learning by answering the question, what's in it for them? As she put it, this is to help how they can be successful in their job. It's always framing the why and what's in it for them instead of here's what I need you to do, or I need you to do this training, do it now. This connects directly to adult learning theory. Adults are motivated by relevance. They need to see how learning applies to their lives, careers, and immediate challenges. When Christina frames training around the learner's success rather than organizational requirements, she's tapping into the intrinsic motivation. But relevance alone isn't enough. Christina uses multiple engagement tools and strategies. She talked about using Mentimeter as a key tool. It allows participants to engage from their phones through word clouds, polls, and other interactive features. She expressed how she finds this valuable in virtual settings where multitasking is very tempting. She also utilizes breakout rooms, which provide opportunities for collaboration and smaller group discussions. This creates an intimacy and encourages participation that might not happen in larger group settings. In addition, there's multiple communication modalities. She gives people options to communicate via chat, verbal response, and even emojis. Different people are comfortable with different modes of participation, and she recognizes that. Finally, there's leadership role modeling. This was something Christina emphasized strongly, and in their global induction program for senior leaders, they do have existing senior leaders come to welcome new associates. As Christina said, if they can see and hear directly from leadership, I feel like that is one of the strongest pieces that adds value and makes it stick. This is social learning theory in action when leaders model behavior and demonstrate organizational value. It sends powerful messages about what matters and creates that buy-in. She's also very thoughtful about time management. Christina structures training in 45 to 55-minute chunks. She'll have 10-minute wellness breaks. She tells participants up front, we want you to be all in. Don't worry, we're going to give you a break. It is built in. So this really respects those adult learners' busy lives, acknowledges that they have competing demands, and by building breaks, she's actually increasing engagement during the active learning time. Now, when I asked Christina about resistance or challenges from learners, she was refreshingly candid. The biggest resistance she encounters isn't really about content, it's about time. As she explained, people always want to know, is this a value add? Otherwise, they just don't want to do it. They won't show up for the training. This is really the reality of adult learning in professional settings. People are busy, they're managing performance, emails, handling crisis. Training can feel like one more thing that can overwhelm a to-do list. So when I asked Christina how she addresses this, she's strategic about building the case for participation. First, she sends pre-reads that clearly articulate takeaways learners will gain. She explains why the training is important, why it needs to happen now. She makes that business case. Second, she checks acceptance rates for training and invitations. If people aren't accepting, that's a signal that something isn't clear and it's not of value. Third, she's learned that if you don't have a good reason for why someone should attend, they won't be there. But if you make a compelling case, they'll probably show up. This honestly reflects clear understanding of adult learning. Christina isn't trying to force compliance. She's trying to earn engagement and demonstrate genuine value. She also mentioned that sometimes they do try engagement tools that fall flat, and that's okay. It's part of a test and learn approach. Not every strategy works with every group, and that's actually valuable information she takes for future iterations. Another major theme was her commitment to feedback and iteration. This isn't a design once and deploy forever approach, as she says. It's continuous improvement. After every training session or keynote speaker, they conduct feedback surveys. She wants to know what worked, what didn't, what did you find value in, and what didn't resonate. But here's the critical part she explained, is that she actually uses the feedback. She said that they incorporate the suggestions because she wants participants to know, as she quotes, "Hey, we heard you, and here's some of the changes we made." This really demonstrates a respect for learners' perspectives and creates a feedback loop that is continuously improving the learning experience. She also tracks participation metrics and compliance rates for required trainings. She did discover that managers aren't completing manager training. She needs to know what is being completed, what is the value, what is the problem. Now, when she talked about staying informed, she really focuses on internal learning, attending meetings across departments and divisions to observe what's the best practices. She also discussed this philosophy of borrowing with pride. If you see something working elsewhere, adapt it. Externally, she'll read Harvard Business Review, LinkedIn, HR publications. Now, throughout this presentation, I tried to connect a theory, but I want to make it a little bit more explicit. Her approach embodies autonomy, experience, relevance, readiness, all of these core principles of andragogy. She has the why. She wants multiple means of how adults participate. She wants to have their baseline understanding since everybody comes with a rich background. So to take away from this interview, effective adult learning requires intentional design. Christina doesn't just throw together training sessions. She thinks carefully about baseline knowledge, differences, engagement, time management, and feedback. Relevance is a non-negotiable. Everyone is overwhelmed with lives and has priorities in their to-do list. It's important that learning clearly connects. Feedback loops are critical. And then she also talked about patience and long-term thinking really does matter. And towards the end, she said it's really that long-term game versus a short-term. And as leaders, they do need patience. So I think that's really important takeaway from this. And as I conducted the interview, I really found this important for my own research interest and connecting it to K through 12 learning and how educators need to be treated as adults. So I saw a lot of connections between the two. All right, thank you.